As usual. Hi, Viki.
Hi, Asel. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hi, everyone. As usual, we're talking about transitioning, and today, Viki and I thought that we would talk about a very special topic that we've heard several occasions together, and that topic is I would really like to follow my dreams, but at the same time, I love my job. I'm committed to it. So if I like both ideas, how do I really choose, right? And where I might be limiting myself, and if I am limiting myself, how do I know that I'm limiting myself? So these would be the topics that people
Mm.
have been asking us, and I love this topic because it has these very subtlety that we want to be very clear about and learn also for ourselves how to recognize them. So that's why let's maybe start with that question of I'm wanting to do something else, but I'm also loving my job. And how do I know which one to follow and where I might be limiting, right? So, Vicky, how would you help answer that question?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And as you say, there are so many subtleties and so many entry points to this question. For me, one of the first questions I would try to explore would be what is it that is driving you to the other side to try or to explore the new job or explore a new venture, something because the truth is that if all your needs, your emotional, your professional, your intellectual, and all the needs were satisfied in your current work, there probably wouldn't be the push, right, to explore something else. So I think at the first stage it will be to try to understand what is it that is pulling you, and it could be a new interest, it could be something completely different. So to explore what is it that is pushing me somewhere, why is it, is there a way that I can do both? So that would be the first angle I can consider. As I said, there could be so many different entry points, but I would also explore my motivation for my current work, right? What is my
Mm,
motivation?
yeah.
What are your thoughts, Asel, about this?
So I was also thinking that maybe the other way to also look at it is um, what if you are committed to your work, but you have outgrown your work already
Yeah,
in some ways, right? Because we know also that feeling that we're very complacent or we are very comfortable. We could do that work with closed eyes, like metaphorically, obviously, or we are not really feeling challenged in the way
yeah,
that we used to, and it doesn't mean that we're not doing a great job, but it just means that maybe we have now realized that we are growing to the next level or to the levels that we haven't explored yet. So the new idea sounds very like enticing for that reason, maybe.
yeah,
And also, therefore, you have this idea of, oh, what if I could do something else, or what if I could do something totally different? Now that I know that I'm capable of this and this and this, right? So this could be uh, the reason. So that's why it would be great, like Vicky was saying, to explore what is motivating you to go, what is motivating you to stay. And also, the other thing I think we need to recognize is that it's great that we have brought ourselves to a great position where we are choosing. And I think that's,
yeah,
we always want to be in that position of choosing, even though choosing is not an easy thing to do. But that's a lot better than when we're forced to make decisions, right? When we're
yeah,
in a situation where we have to do things that we don't really want to do. So that's why I would really encourage you to look at whether you are growing in your current capacity of where you are and where you see the perspective of growing, or you feel like you have exhausted your interest in the way that you used to, and now you want to go forward.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
if we talk about that motivation, like currently where you are, and Vicky, we also talked about it in our webinar as to one of the participants asking, whether it's necessary to rekindle the motivation that's lost,
Mhm.
right? And we were talking about this a little bit here as well. So, what would you say to that question of let's say that we are committed to the overall mission, but we're not really having motivation to do the work that we're working
Yeah,
on.
yeah. And I think it's a great question, and it relates to the first one that we started discussing. Really, what is my motivation for my current work? Because I could have had motivation to
Yeah,
explore new lands, to explore a certain area, to explore geographical area, technical area, get to know people, etc. But maybe this has already been fulfilled, and I'm, as you mentioned, and I'm no longer motivated. No, I have no, there is, yeah, as you say, you can do the work with closed eyes. So it's really important to somehow identify these elements and say, okay, if this is, if I have nothing more to explore, what is it that motivates me today? And this is why the question of rekindling motivation is somehow, I wouldn't say a tricky one, but I would say be careful that you don't fall into some sort of trap, into some sort of old thinking that is no longer valid for you. Because you can realize that, okay, those things were important for me and were motivating me in the past. What is it that motivates me today? And it's
yeah,
exactly as you say. I would also, maybe you can, very often people start to think outside of their current structure, say, oh, but I could do this one, I could go this way. And it's not to say don't do it, absolutely explore, see the options, but I would like to say, elaborate, what is it that is missing in your current work, in your
yeah,
current profession? Is it particular skill you want to learn? Is it a responsibility? Is it something that you don't have right now? And I would encourage again to look first within your organization. Where is it within your organization that you can acquire the skills, you can have these responsibilities, you can grow into this area? Because very often, somehow the lines are somehow predictable, and like switching from one job within organization is sometimes, as you know, very difficult, but it doesn't have to be. I think with
yeah,
the right support, with your right manager and HR, you can have these discussions and you can transit. It's not always possible. I admit that probably it's not possible always and for everyone and in any organization. But I would explore this. What is it concretely I want to gain? I want to have maybe new perspective, right? So I
yeah,
would say, the exercise of rethinking, revisiting
yeah,
what were my motivations, what is my motivation today. And I think it also goes together with where we are in our stage in our lives. Sometimes priorities change, sometimes values shift, and that goes hand
yeah,
in hand then with where we are in life. What
yeah.
about you? What do you think?
And the yes, the other thing that I was thinking of is like in your current job, how far or how much you are being the person you want to be, or maybe that's not really possible in some ways and you feel like restricted, and that could also be motivating you to go and do something else, right? Like for instance, I remember thinking that, well, I'm not really in agreement with this decision that my organization makes, right? Or I'm not really agreeing with this type of result that I'm creating as part of this team. I would like to create another result, or I would like to create more results, whatever it is. So, therefore, I felt like I am not really contributing in the way that I would like to, while in the
Yes.
past, maybe I felt like I was contributing in the way I would like to, following my like values, like you say, of being the person. This is the person I am who helps this people. And if I'm not feeling that I'm doing that or I'm being that person, then maybe also I'm wanting something else. So suffice to say, I think this the conclusion that we want to make from that is really give airtime and seriousness to whatever the desires that you have that you're wanting to explore and do,
Yeah,
because that desire is there for a reason, and that
yeah,
might be indication of something that you're wanting or something that's missing in your current life that you might
yeah,
not be recognizing, and this is a great opportunity to do that. And I thought also, Vicky, we could speak a little bit about self-limiting beliefs or
yeah.
saboteurs, you call it, because I think that's also where we trip ourselves to think, oh, maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'm limiting myself, or maybe I should be doing something else, but I'm not, because I'm limiting myself and I don't know how I'm limiting myself, right? So, how would you respond to that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And you know how our mind works, that our mind is can be our best friend, but also worst enemy, and it's really a choice that we take to say, okay, I want our my mind to work with me, or I'll just follow the dictate of my mind. And as we know, the mind, every time we go into area that we haven't been before, it's going outside of our comfort zone, whatever we wish to call it, doing something we haven't done. The mind is programmed by default, by our DNA and etc., to really somehow protect us
Yeah.
physically, because our mind wants our survival. It doesn't really care too much about our happiness. It wants our survival. So really, this is where the clash very often comes. That there we always tend to have these, as you call it, self-limiting thoughts or saboteurs, or something that comes in nagging. I think what is important here is to recognize these nagging voices that are limiting you. And within these voices, as you are hearing them, as they are coming and asking you, oh, but why are you risking what you have? Or who do you think you are? Or like, oh my God, why do you think you could do this? Or something very, very limiting. I would say what is really important here is to not only employ your mind, but employ the whole body that we have, or the whole system that we have, to really connect to our values, and to, if it's clear to you, to your life purpose. That's really, really, really essential. Or maybe some of you already know, what is your inner leader, or sort of, the best version of yourself, whatever you wish to call it. So in those moments, it's really important to connect to those, to
Hmm.
see whether you're aligned. And even
Yeah.
if we take just the question of values, I think the first biggest dissonance comes when we are acting against our values, against our core
Hmm.
values. And that's we can feel it within ourselves. If you're acting against your values, you will feel it not only in your mind, you will feel it everywhere. But if even in your nagging mind, if these voices keep coming, and they tell you you are capable or not capable of doing this, you really just align in a like within your values, because these values will show you the first step you need to take, and whether you are where you are sort of going into the realm of magical thinking, or whether this is a true path that is being formed in front of you,
Mm.
a path that
Mm.
you are
Yeah.
supposed to be taken. What about you? What do you think about this?
So I was thinking, yes, I was thinking that uh, one of the ways that you described of how you're not aligned, and I think that another way of looking at that could be also be like simply what are the things you're not like doing now,
Hmm.
right? And what are the things that you hate or you are doing it forcefully because you just feel
Yeah.
like this has to be done, so this is how you recognize it, right? So if you're doing those things, it means that you are probably doing something that you don't see the sense of it. And whenever
Hmm.
you keep doing that, it
Yeah.
cannot last long. And
Yes.
we tend to experience a lot of exhaustion. And
Yes.
you tend to maybe also complain a lot and also just not see the
Absolutely.
value of what you're doing. And this
Yes.
is when you realize that you're actually wanting to go a different direction,
Yeah.
but you keep going for it because you feel like you have no other option, because you feel like if you go somewhere else it will be scary, so you will just keep doing what you're doing. So this is actually when you recognize how you are limiting yourself by forcing yourself to do things that you don't like doing. And when you recognize this, you will also know that okay, this is not the way how you can keep going for a long term.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, many of us do that for a long term, and then at
Yeah.
some point when things get so difficult or we can't really even feel our feelings, this is
Yeah.
when we may start seeking help. And
Yeah.
we encourage you not to do that, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why you can just realize like what are the things you're not liking, what are the things that you're forcing yourself to do, and important, like Vicky was saying, why are you forcing yourself, right? So that means that you're not agreeing with something inherently being done,
yeah,
but you're still doing it because you feel like you are obligated to do it as part of your job. But the good thing is that you are in charge of making that change if
yeah,
you wanted to. And what I would really love also to remind maybe that whatever the thing that sounds impossible to you at this point, in terms of what else you could do, that's how the the impossible dreams, how they start. And it's okay that
yeah,
it feels impossible in the beginning.
yeah,
It's not a problem. The problem is if you don't work on it. So this
yeah,
is, I think, just for everyone to be clear that, if I look at all the things that I have achieved in life, all of them were impossible at some point,
yeah,
and then it became possible at other points. It's
yeah,
just that I decided to work on that no matter what and make it happen. So if anything feels impossible to be doing what you really like, explore that. And I will talk to you a bit more on this. So Vicky, anything coming up when I was talking
yeah.
about this?
Thank you for mentioning it. It's today in the morning I heard something what resonated very much with me, and you repeated the same thing about unreasonable dreams. And there was a
Mm,
saying, somebody, I don't remember who was it, who said that as a children we grow up and we are being somehow formed, like when we have still big dreams and we are being formed and told, no, I want to be an astronaut. And somebody from your relatives and somebody well-meaning will tell you, but no, you have to be reasonable,
yeah,
that's not a normal job, you can't have that job. So it's a little
yeah,
bit the same. And he said that in adulthood, you adapt. If you conform with this, you adapt to the universe, right? Because you're reasonable. But then again, all the unreasonable people who keep on pursuing their dreams, eventually the universe will adapt to them. I don't know if it makes sense, but it was
mhm,
very much
yeah,
what you have mentioned, is that yes, it at the beginning it always sounds impossible until you do it, right?
yeah,
And then there is of course the process from thinking things being impossible until really you are doing them, or you're halfway through. So that's a very important reminder that
yeah,
we are the first ones that can, I don't want to say set our minds free, but put the limitations into our minds. So already in the exploration phase, don't limit yourself by saying, oh no, this is not possible, or no, I could never do this. Explore. No, nothing, nobody, nothing is going to happen to you. Nobody can limit you if you don't limit yourself. So really explore, fantasize, think openly, and then make a plan.
exactly. So on that impossible part, and also the when we're talking about self-limiting beliefs, so whenever your brain says it's impossible, it's probably where you detected that this is how you're limiting yourself, right? And this is what I was coming to is like whenever like my brain says, well, it's impossible that I can do it, or other people can do it, but I can't do it because of whatever, whatever, whatever. This is when you have explored that this is how you're limiting yourself.
Yeah,
Now, there might be, of course, factual things that is actual limits that we also want to be very clear about, right? So, for instance, if I now all of a sudden decided to go to be an astronaut for factual reasons of my health and other health limitations, probably they wouldn't accept me even if I tried very hard. So there is that element. But obviously, I'm not wanting to be an astronaut. And also, I never really had that dream, but I had many other dreams, right? So that's
yeah,
why it's probable that whatever you are saying impossible is where you know that this is how you've explored where you're limiting yourself and now what you want to do about it, right? So
yeah,
oftentimes what people do is they say, oh, it's impossible, and then they just forget about it or try to forget about it, but the desire keep nagging, like Vicky was saying, right?
yeah,
And whenever desire keep persisting and saying, well, we should really be doing this,
yeah,
then you notice that you're having this clash inside you because on the one hand you're wanting to do this but you are forcing yourself to do something else, and this is very hard when you keep forcing yourself to do what you don't want to do. So if you know how to do hard things, you can also go and do other hard thing of exploring
Yes.
how to make the impossible possible.
Yeah.
Because whenever your brain says, well, it's impossible, it's hard, you can always say, well, forcing yourself to do the thing that you don't want to do is also equally hard. So you may as well work on something that brings the result that you ideally want instead of pushing yourself until the end. And then when you can't do anything about it and you're burnt out or many other
Yeah.
things, then you start working on it. That might be more difficult because then you have to
Yeah.
deal with the burnout
Yeah.
consequences and working on your impossible dream, right? So that's
Yeah.
why I think what I really want to encourage is that if you're having a desire, don't wait for it to
Yeah.
keep nagging on you. Just take
Yeah.
it seriously, just the way that you would take it seriously if your big boss asks you to do something, for instance,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
if, I don't know, your loved person asks you to do something and you would never postpone it. I'm assuming you would immediately do it. And the
Yeah.
same way, honor your dream or desire to do what you
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love what you're saying. And especially also, as you hinted, that the more we keep on doing things that we are so misaligned with, the more we are going into this phase of burnout, because burnout is
Yeah.
not only it's not only purely physical, that I am being tired from and obviously loads of expectations, etc. But it's also inner misalignment, because whatever we
Yeah.
do in misalignment with ourselves makes us extremely tired and extremely frustrated. So that is a real definite contribution. So I would fully agree with you about the exploration of, yeah, what is possible, and keep your mindset open, to make
Yeah.
sure you have a growth mindset. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, I also wanted to, maybe, I don't know if this is the right time, but I wanted to like only mention, there is, at the beginning, when you are exploring the satisfaction level, how satisfied, and your motivation, there is basically, if you allow me, there is a concept that I read many years ago in Elizabeth Gilbert's book, A Magic, and excuse me, it's called like a shit sandwich concept, and what it is, it's basically that in every part of work that you do, there is a little part where you don't like doing. Like, if you like your work,
Mhm.
there is no such work where 100% you love everything, right? But
Mhm.
it's very likely, and people who don't like, even who have the means, then really, then ask somebody else to do it. Or But what I wanted to say is that, sometimes there is small part of our work that really makes us miserable. We don't want to do it, and actually it may be only 5 to 10%, and the rest, 90 or 95%, we are really enjoying. But sometimes the 5 to 10% causes us so much misery, that really, that we cannot continue working on it. So it's really just sometimes just small adjustments, right? Or changing of
Mhm.
responsibilities can be really helpful. So sorry, I went back a little bit to exploration
Yeah.
of what is really motivating me and what I like to explore, but I thought
Yeah.
it was important to mention.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the other thing that maybe also we want to talk about is I think when we were talking about the self-limiting beliefs or saboteurs, many participants in the webinar were saying, well, how can we just get rid of them? And
Okay.
I love this concept that, there is this idea that we can just get rid of things and then,
Mm,
remove war for once and for all, and then it will not appear, right? But obviously things don't work in our brains that way for whatever reason. So that's why if you are at the point where you're recognizing it and you decided that this is what's how you're limiting yourself or how you're standing in your own way and you want to get rid of it, there is this temptation that you want to do that as fast as possible, as fast to go to the other side and then just be done with it. And if you're not achieving that, that's okay because you can't really do that very fast or very like I don't know, switch on and off. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. So that's why the best way you can do is like once you recognize and accept that this is where it is, you just need to start questioning little by little, looking at what the specifics around this limiting belief and how the fear is involved around it, and then start working through that
Yes.
and not like wanting to just get rid of it, because what
Yeah.
happens is that oftentimes we then put ourselves into this resistance of, oh, I should be done by now, I should know better,
Yeah.
I should be an expert in this, and I'm not, and whatever the frustrations that come up after, keep fighting that limiting belief,
Mhm.
and fighting is never a solution, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why working around it and through
Yeah.
it is the solution, and not rush it. And whenever you're rushing it, that also means that you are trying to get rid of it. It's just another label that your brain might have put it. So that's why work through it rather than fighting and wanting to ignore it.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just a little explanation that is, we all have these sort of limiting beliefs,
Yeah,
that saboteurs, and
yeah,
they were developed, I mean, in our childhoods when we try to sort of adapt ourselves to certain situations that we couldn't manage. It was something that protected us, but unfortunately, all these remain into our adulthood. So, as you say, not to really fight the saboteurs, the first thing is just recognize and then park it and deal with the real
yeah,
subjects, because you can never really win a fight against these nagging voices. That there's no point.
yeah,
The biggest lesson here is to learn to control the mind, which is really
yeah.
the most important lesson here.
Exactly. And also, thanks for mentioning this idea that it will always keep coming in different levels of our growth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not like we will have it once and then we remove it. So it will be there every step of your growth. And
Yeah.
I think the another way to look at this limiting beliefs is that it's just, it used to be your highway up until now, and now you're building a new road,
Yeah.
right? And whenever you're building a new road, it's going to be arduous and difficult,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
your mind wants to go to the highway because it's so easy and
Yeah.
luxurious and comfortable. So you can always remind yourself that no, 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 I'm building a new road. This is how I'm going, even though there is a highway, but you can build a new road. And the way that you know that you built a new road is when you have already went through that road so many times that you don't even recognize there is another road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So until then, it takes time, and it's okay that it takes time. And just be compassionate and nice to yourself as you're doing
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect metaphor. I love the road metaphor. It's so true.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
So, any last points on this before we wrap up?
Yeah, for me, it's just as I said. I think there are two most important points. Be nice to yourself. Sort
Yeah,
of, don't rush and don't punish yourself, or sort of people tend to
yeah,
have this self punishment. No, I should have done this. No, just be nice to yourself, just be accepting of yourself, and yeah, mindset, just be aware when you have closed mindset. There are also different tests you can do it. Be aware, it's important to have a growth mindset for anything we want to do if you want to advance. So those are the two most important things I would mention here. Asel, back to you.
yes, yes, exactly. And I would also say that, whatever the impossible is, that's where your key is.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to go and explore that impossibility. And it's okay if it's impossible in the beginning, because I feel like many big dreams are how they start. They start being like impossible. And once we start get to know it and be intimate with it, then it starts becoming probable and then
Yeah.
possible, and then we start doing it, right? So that's why don't be afraid if it's impossible. Just go for it and exploring, because you are capable of making that happen. It just may take time, and it's
Yeah.
okay too. So, and I know that after this, Vicky wanted to make a very important announcement. Vicky, please.
Thank you very much. So, I just wanted to invite you for all the aid professionals who might be struggling with work-life balance, who might be thinking about have issues and unclarity about their career progression, and also explore a little bit their leadership. We are doing with a partner of mine, with a business partner of mine, Karin Hoffinger, online coaching, group coaching program for humanitarians. We have already had a lot of success in the first cohort, so we are going to be starting second cohort on the 2nd of September. But of course, as places will be filling up, so we encourage you to let us know if you're interested, and we can tell you more. Thank you.
Yay, very good. And also using this chance, I want to invite to the retreat in Kyrgyzstan that I'm doing and on transitioning. So absolutely, you let me know as well. I've been talking about it a lot on social
Yeah,
media. So if you haven't caught it, it's fine. You can let me know messaging, and then I'll tell you all about it. And yeah, I can't wait to welcome people in
yeah,
Kyrgyzstan.
exciting.
Okay. Yes.
Okay,
Having said this, thank you so much for all listening
you.
and being with us. And I've seen the stats that the numbers of viewers growing. So Vicky and I are so excited about it. And we want
Exciting.
to continue doing this and also getting your questions, getting your feedback, and also having you as a guest here. You let us know, and we'll be happy to talk to you next Thursday.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.